In this video, we're going to discuss what is a Chapter 13 step-up plan, why you might need to do one, and the risks and the benefits of doing a step-up during your Chapter 13 plan. So stay tuned, Bankruptcy Bailout Buddies. Welcome, debtors and borrowers, to Bankruptcy Bailout, because debt ruins lives, not bankruptcy. So reality check for a moment. The government's not going to bail you out. The banks aren't going to bail you out. But bankruptcy has always been here waiting to bail you out if you find yourself in financial distress due to debt. My name is Matt Burkus, Colorado bankruptcy and debt relief attorney. And today we're going to talk about a technical aspect of Chapter 13 bankruptcies. Specifically, what are Chapter 13 step-up plans? So step-up plans are pretty basic as far as the concept goes. Chapter 13s are monthly payment plans, so you're going to pay back a portion of your debt over 36 to 60 months. And so a step-up plan just means that your monthly payment is going to increase at some point later in the Chapter 13 plan, some point down the road. So you might start off at $250 a month, and then in month 36, your payment's going to go to $500 a month. It's going to step up. So why might this happen? Do you want that to happen? And what are some of the risks and benefits of having a Chapter 13 step-up plan? So the most mundane or technical reason you're going to have a Chapter 13 step-up is if you have a fixed monthly payment you're already paying that's going to expire or be paid off during your time in Chapter 13. The two most common types of payments where this happens are car payments and 401k loan repayments. So if you're paying $300 a month to repay a 401k loan through your employer, and that happens to expire, say, in month 36, then the Chapter 13 plan is required to increase your payment by the amount that you were paying to that 401k loan. So your payment will increase by $300. So that's called a step-up. Unfortunately, in our district in Colorado, where I practice, a judge finally came down and said, look, if you know that you have a fixed payment that's going to expire during the life of the Chapter 13, the Chapter 13 plan has to address that up front in order to be approved. Now, your district may vary a little bit on this issue about whether that needs to happen, but it is fairly common practice. So same thing with the car payment. If your car is going to be paid off during the Chapter 13, then your Chapter 13 monthly payment must increase by the amount of your car payment. Now, specifically for cars, just understand you actually can buy a car during Chapter 13 bankruptcy and even finance one. So down the road in 36 months, you may be able to just go ahead and trade that vehicle in, get a new one, finance it, and then you have another car payment, and then your Chapter 13 plan doesn't have to address it. But that's still going to require a modified plan and approval from the trustee, from the Chapter 13 trustee, in order to do that. But you can make changes to the Chapter 13, and you are able to buy a car and so forth. But at least up front, in the first few months of your Chapter 13, while we're working to get the plan approved, we're going to have to assume that the car is going to be paid off in month 36 and apply that payment to the Chapter 13. So that's what a step-up is. Okay, so that's a more technical, mundane reason you might have to do one. The other reason you might need to do a step-up is if you have to pay a certain minimum amount of debt in your Chapter 13 and you just don't have the means to do so initially. So you might only be able to afford $200 a month, but you need to be able to pay $20,000 worth of debt. Now, 200 times 60 is only $12,000. So this was more common during the housing crisis, 2008, 9, and 10. People were at the end of the ropes. They were facing foreclosure. They had to file a bankruptcy to stop the foreclosure, but they didn't necessarily have enough disposable income to restart making their mortgage payment and catch up the missed mortgage payment. So what we had to do was formulate a plan where the payment was smaller initially and then increased incrementally over the life of the plan, hoping that the debtor was able to sort of pull that off during the Chapter 13. So that's another reason. Now those, of course, are a little more risky. Now you should have a basis for thinking about if you're going to file a step-up plan and you have a certain minimum of debt you have to pay, you should have a basis for some sort of factual basis for why the plan, how the debtor is going to pay the step-up, something that's going to happen. Maybe at the time you filed the plan, the wife or the spouse wasn't working, or you had reduced hours, but the hours are going to increase. Whatever the explanation is, you just need to have some sort of explanation to say, okay, I can only afford $200 a month now, but I know I need to fund more into it, and I can start paying $500 a month in month 36 to finish out the plan and get to the number that I have to pay. All right, and the other minor step up, the third version that I'll sometimes do for people, especially people who are basically in Chapter 13 because they can't do Chapter 7 for some reason, so they're in a low payment Chapter 13, or again, they have a certain minimum debt they have to pay, is I may start off the payment really low initially, like the first 3 or 4 months, to help the person transition into Chapter 13. So it might only be like $150 a month, just to help them kind of get accustomed to the Chapter 13, and then the payment increases to what it needs to be for the remainder of the plan, maybe $250, $300, $350, whatever it has to be for the remainder of the plan. But usually that's because something has happened. They're just getting back on their feet, or they just had some expenses they have to pay, bills they had to pay, and they just don't have the money, like some medical, like they have to go to the doctor or something like that. There's usually some reason why we need to have the plan payment low in the first few months, basically just to help them with that transition from pre-bankruptcy life to Chapter 13 life. So those are the basic reasons why you might do a Chapter 13 step-up plan. Now, no Chapter 13 is set in stone, so one of the benefits is you can always do a modified plan in the future, in month 24, 36, whenever. If your life changes or the circumstances of your life change, we can always make a change to the Chapter 13 plan at that point to account for those changes. But the idea of getting the payments all set up front is so that it's predictable. And part of that predictability, unfortunately, is you'll have to do a step up if you have certain fixed payments that are going to expire during the Chapter 13. So that's the Chapter 13 plan step up. I hope this information helps. Again, my name is Matt Burkus, Colorado Bankruptcy and Debt Relief Attorney. I primarily do Chapter 13 bankruptcies, help people with back tax issues, payroll taxes, and student loans. Best of luck to you.